or this evening, depending on where you are. I am joined by Mike Brock. Mike, hi.
Hi, Reed. How are you?
Well, I am good. So, guys, everybody, Mike is an ex tech executive, now a reluctant Cassandra. At least that's what his
Mm,
Substack bio says.
that
And he
is what it
writes
says.
over at Notes from the Circus. So, Mike, tell us what is going on. Are there elephants in the zoo? Are there giraffes? Are there lion tamers? What is going on in the circus today?
Well, what's going on in the circus? There's a lot of stuff going on in the circus, right? The circus is our, what I like to say is our epistemic condition.
Right.
Um, I mean, uh, this guy, the head of Binance, who was serving some prison time, was pardoned
Right.
today by Trump. Sure, that had nothing to do with
Right.
Trump coin and all that crypto corruption. We're knocking down the east wing of the White House. It's gone now. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but it's not there anymore.
Right.
I think. Look, what's going on? Look, I don't know like what to say to people anymore, right? I wrote a piece today that was like going after the anti crowd in a pretty aggressive way. I have a lot of friends, weirdly enough. You might not have maybe hard to believe who I would associate with that sort of anti crowd.
But before you go on,
Everything you
define for folks what you see as the anti crowd.
it's really, it's these like motherfuckers. Some of them are center left, like, ostensibly like Glenn
Right.
Greenwald, and then you have
Okay.
others like, like Andrew Sullivan and then various people at the National Review Online. Some of them are just friends of mine that you don't know, but kind of live in that sort of like thought world where it's just sort of like, you know what, like Trump's a big problem, but the opposition to him is like even worse.
Oh, right.
These
Yes.
liberals, they think there's more than two genders. Oh my God. It's very like frustrating phenomenon. These people who can sit there and nod along and be like, yes, I see that Donald Trump has like, is accepting unconstitutional foreign emoluments from Qatar and then granting them Article 5 like protections in exchange. And I can agree this is really corrupt. But can you also agree that Hunter Biden was like also engaged in really like salacious like influence peddling, like in order just to be fair, like understand why Republicans might not care about this. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like these guys are attempting a regime change in full public view. They want to bring on 20,000 masked thugs and deploy them across the United States and disappear people, kick down doors without individualized warrants in violation of the Fourth Amendment of our Constitution's Bill of Rights. These anti people are just like they've gotten long in the tooth. I think we need to stop taking them seriously. I don't think we should invite them to the cool parties anymore. Reed, that's my opinion.
Well, having known some of those people, let's be clear, Mike, they were never at the cool parties. They were never at the cool parties. Not in junior high, not in high school, not anywhere else, right? Like there was a party, they might have all been together at it. You and I, well, I know I wouldn't have been invited, but I think that there's a broader point you're making too, which is that there's always, look, there's some level of both sidesism no matter what. But I think the other part is this idea of, and I have a lot of friends like this. Look, I don't like him,
Yeah,
but I like them even less. And
yeah,
I'll tell you,
yeah, yeah.
there's a big part of the electorate, especially the swing electorate, that don't think about it in that way necessarily. But it has the same downstream effect, which is I don't like what Trump and the Republicans are doing, but I
Yeah.
want nothing to do with the
You know,
Democrats.
yeah. This is why I'm so angry at them, right? Because like they generally see reality like the same way
Mhm.
that you and I do. Like they kind of like they get it, right? But then they're like, well, but have you seen like the latest like, fucking like nose ring, purple haired, like woke person that like Chaya Raychek has like posted on Libs of TikTok and like see how crazy the left is? Like, surely you can understand why I sit on my hands. It's like, no, I can't. I can't understand that. This person has nothing to do with my life, but my Fourth Amendment protections do. And
Right.
as do like other like 300 and like, 74 million Americans or I mean, I think our population's probably dropped about 1 million people in the last like 8 months as people flee
Right.
this country. But like, look, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, I think these people. This is my proposition. These people need to like, poop or get off the pot, right? Like pick a side. It is a time for choosing, as Reagan said. And these anti people as far as I'm concerned, I mean, this will be the last time I talk about them.
But Mike, I think this is the point, though, is the time for choosing is something that these people don't want to do. Because
Yeah.
to choose means you have to take a stand for something, not just against everything, not just against, not just being the critique, to reference another president, Teddy Roosevelt, but to be the man or woman in the arena, to
Mhm.
actually say, no, I am going to take a stand. I am going to fight for something. Look, history is culture is replete with critics. That's not anything new.
I'm one
Um,
of them.
well, as so many of us are, and that's fine. But the other part too, and I think that it's one thing to be a critic. It's another thing, and this is what I think you've done, and what I want to talk a little bit about tonight is the idea of, yes, be against whatever you want to be against, but what's the other option, right? What's the solution? What's the path forward? And that was one I wanted to talk about vis-a-vis the idea of on the center left, you call these folks anti, and
Yeah.
and
I
then
mean,
there's
Barry
the
Weiss, she says she's on the center left. I
but well, I
mean,
mean, she's
do you believe
that's
that? I mean, I don't know. I mean,
this is so this is where again, these lines are so blurred. You get a Barry Weiss who says, I just want to be an independent news outlet. I'm all for that. I want to be
okay.
free of the strictures of Washington, DC and New York and the cultural mores that represent a very small slice of people so we can get the straight dope out there. The problem is that it never stops there. It always descends somewhere into fantasy, fallacy, some level of gaslighting or, conspiracy theories. Sometimes it's outright propaganda, but it's not quote unquote independent media. And that's
Yeah.
fine too, but just be honest about what you are.
Well, I mean, like, if I can just like
Please.
say what my critique is of say like the free press, and I had this like spat with this outlet that goes by the name Pirate Wire. It's run by this Mike Solana, who's the VP of marketing at Founders Fund, Peter Thiel's venture capital
Ah,
outlet.
mhm.
And
We lost you.
oh, sorry,
There you go.
Can you hear me now? Sorry, there's a
Yeah.
really badly placed like mute
So,
button on
so
this.
Founders Fund,
Um,
you were arguing with the
Yeah,
Pirate
so
Wire
yeah,
guy.
so I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, he's ostensibly he works a full time job at Founders Fund, but is also the editor in chief of Pirate Wires. That's apparently speaking truth to the liberal hegemony against people like me, apparently. That decided that what we really needed to do is we really needed to like think about the credibility of Heather Cox Richardson. She has 2.7 million subscribers on Substack. Have you heard? And she's made some errors along the way. like surely this implicates her thesis that Donald Trump is an authoritarian. He could have good reasons for the things he's doing. Landing a Black Hawk helicopter on a South Shore apartment building in Chicago and like kicking down a bunch of doors with American citizens inside without warrants. Maybe he had some good reasons for that. Really? I mean, the authors Blake Dodge and Catherine D like telling me that they were just trying to make sure that the I's are dotted and T's are crossed and just making sure that like she's like credible. Like, is this the real conversation that we're having? These people are telling me they're just speaking truth to power. Doesn't seem to me that they're speaking truth to any power. It seems that they're speaking truth to the disempowered. And the game is like very clear. I mean, they thought it was unfair and conspiratorial of me to ask the question, like how did this story come about? Like whose idea was it to do this piece on Heather Cox Richardson? Was it Mike Solana's piece, the VP of Founders Fund, who works for Peter Thiel, who has explicitly advocated for an end to democracy? He's currently on some insane tour about the Antichrist apparently being this crazy one world government that the elite of the world are like pushing us towards. And
You
this
mean the
Peter
same
Thiel
one
funded
that's
outlet.
I was going to say the same one that
Yeah,
created Palantir and all the other things that
yeah,
are actually
yeah, yeah,
making those things happen.
and yeah, and these people have these people have the like the fucking audacity to sit here and say that I'm engaged in conspiracy theory. Like, what the fuck is your paymaster talking about, right? You know, in these antichrist talks, sounds pretty conspiratorial to me. Sounds fucking crazy. This sounds like Opus Dei like shit. So I just think that you know, like a fucking, you know, like Dan Brown novel. Like, I mean, like so I think that this uh you know, I mean, it's pathetic at some level, right? Because I think anybody on the outside looking in and just taking account of the sort of the interests like behind these people, who claim they're just like, oh, I'm like, we're centrist, we're just, but their entire focus is on the credibility of people like Heather Cox Richardson. They'll probably come after me at some point, right? I mean, if I keep like ruffling their feathers. I mean, I stepped down from my position in Silicon Valley, and I kind of left Silicon Valley, and I've been, you know, I mean, it hasn't been good for my career, just to be clear. So if
No,
they think that, you know, so if they think that I'm somehow like serving some like liberal elite cabal, I mean, the liberal elite cabal that they think I might be defending doesn't want anything to do with me because they're all too busy taking a fucking knee for Donald Trump. So anyways, sorry,
no,
I'm
no.
going on a
Listen,
tangent here.
this is you know, look, this is where you know, this. I'm glad you said that because this is one of those things that you were taught. There was a one of the pieces you wrote, I think earlier this week. I quoted and I put it up on the Substack notes thing is the idea of what you're doing, which is when you start talking to power, you stop getting invited.
Yeah.
When you start talking truth to power, people don't want to be around you as much. There are opportunities that you might have had if you would just shut up and get in line, right? If you would just stop it.
Yeah.
And to your point about the elite left, I think the one thing that in all of this talk, from the anti-antis to the founders fund guy and all of this other stuff, is the lives of actual Americans and or human beings around the world, that they want to
Exactly. Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
anything other than the
Absolutely.
fact that their whole mission in life is to either passively screw the country or actively screw the country.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, like, these are, you know, I wrote a big piece it's about a year ago now, right? This Plot Against America piece, not a full year ago, but where, you know, I documented my journey, you know, well, my intellectual journey, really. I mean, I don't really document it as my journey, but it was my
Right.
journey. I mean, I grew up with these people. You know, I was involved very early in sort of the libertarian movement. You know, I hung out with like Students for Liberty, like Cato fucking people when I was like in my 20s. I was really young and stupid, like a lot of us were.
You just hated stop
And
signs. Every stop sign you saw,
yeah,
you just
yeah,
screamed
yeah. I mean, yeah,
oppression,
yeah,
oppression.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, I think you're allowed to like read Atlas Shrugged in your you know, in your late
Sure.
teens, early 20s, and entertain the sort of like idea of that, you know, selfishness is virtue for about like 3 or 4 or 5 years. But by the time you get to like 26 or 27, your brain's fully developed and you haven't really started to like maybe ask some questions like, well, maybe there are some things that are more important in life than like my own like personal like, you know, wealth pursuits and material gains. Like maybe I should care a little bit about the world that I'm leaving to my children. Maybe I want to live in a society where I don't see people dying and shooting up on the streets. Like maybe it's like someone like me, you know, I'm you know, I'm lucky, you know, I've had a you know, relatively like comfortable life, like relative to most people. I had a successful career. I'm a smart guy. You know, am I really like am I really on a slippery slope to totalitarian Marxism, to maybe observe like, I don't know, like maybe if I spent like 2-3% more on taxes a year, which really isn't that much, really, when I actually think about it, that, you know, some of these people might still be alive, that we could give some healthy food to some hungry kids who are at school so they can learn and become, you know, contributing members to society, that I can pay it forward a little bit. And they'll say, well, why don't you give to charity, Mike? Well, I do, but I mean, I think like, you know, I think like, you know, our founding fathers, actually, Thomas Jefferson, he sort of understood something, and supposedly these people revere the founders. They revere the founders. They never they have a very selective reading of like what the founders said, particularly Jefferson, because he
Sure.
advocated for public schooling. He thought, and I think he was correct, because he was sort of trying to internalize, the like Plato's, Plato's critique of like democracy and like the necessity of the philosopher kings and stuff. And he was like, yeah, we should have public education. We should imbue some civic virtue into the nation's children. Like I think he's right about that. I think we need to like get back. So I mean, I think that these people are just I mean they are every, I hate to say this because I'm not like a Bernie bro or anything, but like I mean I have a hard time disagreeing with anything Bernie Sanders says these
Right.
days. I just do. I mean it's like it's hard to disagree with him. It's just after seeing what I've seen and just seeing these guys' arguments, and I like these fucking people, like these fucking PayPal mafia motherfuckers who argue. I don't know if I should be swearing like this on your
Go
Substack
for
live.
it.
I'm sorry.
That's
But
okay.
but I
If we
mean,
haven't
yeah, I
scared
mean,
them off by now, that's not going to do
yeah,
it.
I mean, these are I mean, they're degenerate. They're degenerates, and I mean, I'm just searching for a word, but I mean, yeah, I mean, these are morally degenerate people, right? I mean, you read about these people's personal lives, like like you know, uh, fucking Teal going to sex parties, and Musk being all ketamine addled and on fucking MDMA, like all over the place. Like this fucking Curtis Yarvin guy, like hanging out with this guy. I mean, these are moral reprobates. It's what they
Right.
are, right?
Well,
Um,
I mean,
and
Mike,
um,
Mike,
and somehow and somehow they're
let me just interrupt. You're not going to get an invitation to Galt's Gulch with an attitude like that. Okay.
I mean, I don't want to go. I mean, I've read the book. I mean, I've read Atlas Shrugged like several times,
Why would you
and
do it
I
more
actually
than once? That just seems
I,
like
I went
torture.
well. What was funny was like, after I kind of came up with this whole theory, I wrote a piece on my Medium blog a few years ago. It was like the libertarian to fascist pipeline, and I really kind of, I went at some of the thinkers, these anarcho-capitalist thinkers like Murray Rothbard, and more
Hmm.
contemporaneously like Hans Hermann Hoppe, who's like just a fucking fascist, although some people will insist he's a libertarian. He's not. And just going back and just sort of rereading it, and just like with my sort of more uh mature moral approbations
Right.
and disapprobations, and reading through that book, and just realizing like what a like what a moral wasteland that book is. What a shitty world that would be to live in, with people who talk like that and act like that and
Right.
sit around and like it's yeah.
Well, and just terrible writing. I mean, truly
Yeah,
awful
yeah, I mean,
prose. Right.
yeah, like 36 pages like of like John Galt's speech to the nation.
Ugh,
It's like,
I know.
oh,
I
I will
know. And
never ask another man. It's like, shut the
I
fuck
know.
up. Like,
Reardon medal. That's all we need, right? We just need some Reardon medal. If you had a little Reardon medal in your spine, Mike, you'd feel a lot better.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, what's funny is like actually after I did like reread like a pretty large part of it, like I went and earlier this year I wrote a piece. It's Clear Thinking v Ayn Rand. You should go check it
Mhm.
out on Notes from the Circus. It's free. It's not a paywalled piece. None of
Okay.
my old pieces are paywalled. Where I just like go at that book, and if you're in the mood, if your listeners are in the mood for a thorough thrashing of Ayn Rand's lack of morals, check that piece out.
Well, and to your point, and let's go forward by going backward. Ayn Rand, also a moral reprobate in her personal life, right? A very
Oh yeah, I
strange
mean, yeah,
individual, right? A
yeah.
very strange individual. And I don't. This is the thing: is
I
I'm
mean,
not
have you
one.
read it? You know about her theory of sex, right? You know about this?
Um, you remind me. I
But
think I
yeah,
have an
we
idea,
don't
but I
have to.
don't.
I don't think. Let's not talk.
You
Let's
know
not
what?
talk
We're
about it.
gonna
We got.
we're gonna we're gonna we're gonna stick that one in the to do file, and we'll move on. Okay, so so Mike, talk to me a little bit about. Actually, I want to bring something up. So let's if you bear with me. So look, I'm a political guy, right? Campaigns all my
Yeah,
life, and so
clearly.
I want to get your sense of this. Is so what we see going on up in Maine with Janet Mills, the governor, and Graham Plattner, the oyster guy. And I don't
Yeah.
and and what the point I'm trying to make, or the question I guess I want to ask you is, it seems to me that Plattner came on the scene. He ginned up a lot of populist sort of activist support from people who are finally, like Bernie, telling it like it is, being, recognizing that there are issues. Janet Mills, the governor up there, gets in. Then, the day after she gets in, the Democratic Senatorial Committee starts a joint
Oppo dump.
fundraising. Starts a joint fundraising committee with her. Then they start the Oppo dumps, right?
Yeah.
And what we're seeing, to me, feels a lot like what you saw in the summer and fall of 2015 in microcosm, which is when Trump came on the scene, everybody's like, can you believe that? And then he just kept saying and doing things. And the more that people supported the establishment candidates and the more people tried to get rid of him, the more retrenched his supporters came. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that now in Maine, which is, I don't care. I'm just saying this in the abstract, which is, I get the sense there's a lot of people who are like, I don't care what kind of tattoo he has. At least he's not them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I totally get it. I mean, this has like kind of been my beat for a while now, just attacking these like technocratic elites. And my thoughts, right, too, just my response to these people who are sort of outraged with Graham Plattner's past and his like past statements and his Reddit posts and stuff. I mean, like I would apply the same standard, by the way, to people on the right. And it's actually one of the reasons why I was always very critical of like woke cancel culture on the left, is because if you want people to morally progress in the world, and you kind of accept that there's like racists, people, sexist people, prejudiced people of all sorts, right? Um, and some of us, like myself, right? I mean, I grew up working class, uh and if I'm being, the kind of culture I grew up in had some racism going on. I heard some things at the dinner table, right? Um and I don't know, like I don't remember like the things I said in like middle school and stuff like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if like I said some things when I was younger that I wouldn't be proud of as an adult. In fact, I'm sure that's the case for all of us. This sort of moral preening, this puritanism, this like neo-Protestantism, like fucking shit. If somebody renounces bigoted views and becomes an advocate for protecting the people who they once were prejudiced against, that is a moral victory. That is a person that has gone from the bad team to the good team, and we should welcome them with open arms. It's a redemption story. It's moral progress. That's how it happens, right? I mean, 90% of this country was against same-sex marriage in 1999 when the Defense of Marriage Act was passed. Like 90%, 9 out of 10 Americans were like opposed to it, and now
Barack Obama ran in 2008 saying he was against
that
it.
means a lot of fucking people had quote unquote homophobic views about same-sex marriage within like 20 years ago, a majority of people in this country. So if we're going to play this game that, somebody was against same-sex marriage in 2006 or something like that, and we're going to say, well, I mean, we found this like Facebook post from 2009 where you were against same-sex marriage, despite the fact that like you've supported same-sex marriage for the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. I mean, I say this to the progressive Puritans on the left who go and like demand purity as much as like as to anyone else. Like I think we should celebrate the fact that Graham Plattner has evolved in his views, that he's apologized, that he's taken accountability for the things that he said, and he is, as far as I can tell, running on a very humane, non-prejudiced, and quite frankly, like I don't know, like breath of fresh air, campaign. Like here's like a normal fucking guy that has a big heart and maybe was a little bit ignorant in the past, and he himself admits that, and he's shown a capacity for growth. I don't know. I want more people like that in Congress. I don't know about you.
Right. So let's go down I-95 to New York City, where in Maine, Graham Plattner is for the establishment beyond the pale. But in New York City, Zoran Mamdani is beyond the pale, but sex pest Andrew Cuomo, right, who went and said, maybe I'll get sex pest Donald Trump's assistance in trying to figure out how to win this, is the establishment choice. If they had to if it was a one-on-one race, they'd all be behind Cuomo without question. And so to me, it's even worse is that the moralizing and the puritanicalism is cynical. It's
Yeah.
it's based on what they want at a given time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I mean, we can hair split. May not be the same parts of the Democratic coalition that are attacking Mondami versus Plattner, but I think like the point that you brought up at the beginning of this, like when we started talking about these insurgent popular figures, James Tallarico's another one, in Texas. Interesting, like religious left figures. Interesting. I'd like to meet that guy actually. It's very fun. I feel like I want to pick that guy's brain.
Sure.
But Mamdani, I mean, look, I mean, my point, I mean, I think he's going to win.
Oh yeah.
And I think that, I know I'm kind of like talking around the question, but I'll try to bring my thoughts back home. But like, I think the people that think that he's going to be this albatross on the Democrats nationally are really misreading the moment. I think, they're like easily 60+% of Americans at this point are just ready for like something that's different. And that's why Trump won, right? Unfortunately, like he's like the one guy that's like been smart enough to try and catch that energy. And I don't think that like these attacks of communism and socialism on Plattner, on Mamdani, I don't think it's going to work this time. I mean, I think the Democratic establishment is doomed, actually, and I kind of think they know it, right? I mean,
oh sure.
I think Schumer and Jeffries are like, they're like cornered rats right now, right? And I think they should bow out like immediately. If you're watching this, Chuck, if you're watching this, Hakeem, I think you should step down. I think you need to get out of the way. We really, really need to get some fighters in there, but that's just me.
But you hit on the point, which is that it's there is there's the puritanical left, but my supposition,
they are very annoying, Reed. Just to be clear.
No, like listen, I agree with you. But my supposition is that the strike point is economics. To your point, the strike point is economics. They try and use the culture issues to dissuade people from voting for someone, not on economic issues, which they know they're behind on, but because this person, to your point, is not allowed inside the tent, right? And I think that if you look at whether or not it's the identity left or the establishment left, the identity left uses culture issues because they're trying to push a point. The establishment left uses it as a means of not having to talk about things they know they have no good answer for.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, I also just think, look, I mean, this has been kind of like a repeating pattern in American political history. Like there's this sort of like cultural undercurrent of Protestantism on the left that kind of just it surfaces. We had like the temperance movement, and then like like the backlash against like flapper culture and stuff like that in the early 1900s. And then eventually you had the hippies and the anti-war, and they were in the anti-war movement, and they were tied up in civil rights, which was good. I mean, look, these people sometimes get it right? These these moralizers of the left. I mean, they do deserve credit sometimes, but they also like take things too far. And you had politically correct culture in the 90s, and like they surface from time to time and they push things too far. But I mean, like that, but it's the messy part of democracy, right? Like we don't we don't establish dictatorship to stop this cycle from happening. We put our big boy pants on and we run for office and we argue with these people. We tell them to like shut the fuck up, like stop, like you're canceling me. Why? Because I didn't put my pronouns in my bio. Like, what are you talking about? It's like it's just I think like the serious left just needs to like realize that like these people are just they're actually a tiny percentage of people, but they act like bullies. And somehow there was this crazy confluence that happened in 2016 when Donald Trump won the election, and somehow those people were able to find all this cultural power and like scare the hell out of the rest of the left into silence while they kind of like dominated the cultural conversation, and then actually became effective fuel for the demagogues on the right. So that you end up with the they them ad in Pennsylvania that some people think was potentially dispositive to the election in Pennsylvania this past fall. But I mean, I don't really think that's true. But like, I mean, look, I think that absolutely, like, Plattner should stay in the race for that reason, right? We need normal fucking people, and I think normal people like Plattner are close. Are our best bet at saving us, at least in Congress.
Well, it's also been
So
funny to see that some of the Twitter and Blue Sky and Threads folks too say when they look at Plattner, they're like, well, what if he's just the next John Fetterman? Right. So, okay. So,
maybe, yeah.
maybe
he's
is.
Clearly not that. He's clearly not
but
that.
That's the point, is like the working class guy, the populist guy. How do we know he's not going to turn on us? Like, as if you have any purchase on anything, right? As if what you've been doing has worked.
Yeah. I mean, and this is my critique, right, of myself, actually, right? I mean, I wrote this piece, right, The Coming Clash of Civilizations. I'm just keep promoting my work. Yeah, and there's a blindness. There's a blindness that people like me have had, and most like me still have, that just doesn't really understand what life is like outside their bubble. They just don't really get it. And I'm guilty of this as anyone else, like in the election campaign last year, right? I mean, it's true, right? The economy was growing, inflation was coming down. The job market was very robust. But then you start having conversations with people in middle America. You listen to, uh, Sarah Longwell's focus groups, right? That she does with Longwell Partners, and she has a podcast over at the Bulwark on this. And you just like look at this sort of these Americans, and what you find is there's a lot of like precarity there. People have jobs, but they're also driving for Uber and DoorDash, and they have side hustles, and they're getting by, right? But like these people don't have any sense of stability. They don't feel like they're going to be able to afford a home.
And if they have a home, they can't afford anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of people like me who sort of saying like, okay, what's the vibe session all about? Right. Are really just missing the fact that we've created an economy that's functioning. I mean, humans are adaptive, right? Like if we have to survive, we figure out ways to survive, and people have figured out ways to survive by, engaging in the gig economy, driving for Uber, doing all those things. That's not going to last very much longer with these self-driving cars. And people wonder why, like they say the economy feels so shitty, even though, on paper, Americans are doing okay financially. And that part's true. These things are true at the same time, that like Americans are kind of like okay financially. These people in middle America, they're bringing in enough money to buy their food and survive, and none of it feels permanent. It feels liminal to them. It feels like
because
it feels like it. Yeah, it feels like at any moment, like it could all be ripped away from them, and that creates anxiety. So, like, even if even if like on paper they've got money coming into the bank account, it's like the way in which they're living their life is just like it's precarious. And and you have this other element of it too, which I think is a really underplayed sociocultural element that I think the fascist right is really, I think, I think is like
Yep.
misreading, which is that there's a elite precariat as well that's emerging, a class of people that some would call them overeducated. Certain folks would call them a product of elite overproduction, and these people are like highly skilled and there's no jobs for them,
Right.
because they've been trained for jobs that don't exist. They're being replaced by AI, or they're being replaced by fundamental shifts in the economy, the structure of the economy. And these people are, I mean, these are the kinds of people that are smart enough to put together plans to like lead revolutions, right? Like
I
these
was
are the
it you
people.
that said that said there's no greater danger to a country than an educated elite with nothing to do?
I mean, it wasn't me that said that, but whoever said that, I agree with 100%, and that's the exact point that I'm making right now. So you have this really large, like Gen Z and now like younger. I call them the elite precariat, right? Because they they are elites. Like they know how to use computers, they
They
know
went
how
to
to use
college.
all the newest shit. They're some of them are philosophically trained. They know their history, they know what the fuck is going on, and they've got nothing to do. And so you put people like that out there over the next few years, like I think there's a lot of like interesting things that are going to come out of that group, people who are going to emerge from that group, that are going to be names that are remembered by history. Some of them could be dangerous. I mean, some of them could be the next like Hitler too. I mean, these. I'm not. I don't say that lightly. I mean, this is a very
Yeah.
like unstable element of our society. That in fact, I was going to write a really big piece on this weekend, on the elite precariat, because it's something that like I think that like is not really being thought about by political scientists and and folks. Uh, yeah, we're heading into a very unstable. I mean,
Right.
as political scientists might say, an interregnum. We are
For sure.
in a regime, in a post regime, pre regime place, both in terms of the international order and now our domestic order here in the United States, both which of course this is an American led global order, so these things are closely linked. But it's a period of extreme danger, uh, in terms of like how things can turn, very very quickly.
Well, and
As
you said something. I'm sorry to interrupt. You said something that I think was really interesting. That amongst those who are working class, working poor, they have adapted. They have found a way to survive. The hyper wealthy will be okay. To your point, it's going to be the middle or what's left of it that are going to face the greatest shock because all of the things they thought were going to come to them because they had checked all the appropriate boxes are now further away, and they find themselves closer to the bottom than they do the top because the top is pulling away and shrinking and the bottom is broadening and growing, and they don't want to be a
yeah,
part of that, right?
absolutely.
They don't
Yeah,
like that. Their parents probably didn't grow up like that. Yeah, go
downward
ahead.
social mobility is a way to get people feeling really upset really quickly politically. And I would say that, I would say like, look, I know how Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen and these reprobates think about these people. Their plan is quite, it's quite, it's Bond villain esque. They,
Right.
they think like, look, like we're going to control the TikTok algorithm, we're going to control the X algorithm. We got Zuck on board now. Zuck's gonna Zuck fuck them with us.
Right.
And they're wrong about that, right? They're wrong about the fact that their AI optimized algorithms, that their, that their surveillance state, that their, their Palantir, Stasi files on American citizens are going to be the thing that allow them to control this elite precariat, this, educated middle, because these people like already understand it. They know what's going on. They're already
Yeah.
getting off social media. Have you seen like the
Yeah.
social media usage graphs over the last year? Like they get it. They understand. They're educated. They understand. They're like we're being force fed propaganda. We're gonna go
Yeah.
out and touch grass.
And
Um,
that's the point, is
and
that
so
they can do that, right? They can, if it could be a Telegram channel, it could be a text chain, it could be phone calls, it could be meet at the library, right? Like that's the other part, is like, no guys, the world existed for millions of years long before nerds in the basement of the Pentagon came up with the internet. There are plenty of ways to communicate without you.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what Timothy Snyder talks about when he talks about like practicing corporeal politics, right?
Mhm. Right.
Is that like these elites in some ways, like their entire power exists in digital space, and if you kind of think about that, right, as a political opposition, or as a
Right.
a group of mobilizing citizens against an elite that's using control of digital platforms and information, through little screens on your phone, you're like, well, wait, we exist in the world.
Right.
These people, that we exist in physical space. We can shut things down. We can block highways. We can we can cut the power. Like,
Look, we
I
saw a
think
little
I
bit of
think
it a few weeks ago. I mean, among, I don't know how many other millions of people decided we didn't want anything more to do with Disney. Canceled our Disney
yeah.
subscriptions, right? What happened? Jimmy Kimmel's back on the air. You know why? Maybe he gives him some bad press. Maybe he doesn't make as much money as he used to, but he's still cash positive. You know what isn't? Millions of people getting off our streaming channels.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's just this like notion, like that these neo-reactionary tech fascists, that what they're going to do, like Elon thinks he's going to get like, Grok indoctrinating everybody, and his Grok companions are going to like, de-wokeify everyone, and get them to see the power of handing over all political control to entrepreneurs like him, who are going to take us all to Mars on his big happy starship. I mean, uh you know they strongly overestimate their hand. I mean, they are in fact very tragic characters in a very, very tragic giant Shakespearean play that we're all taking part in. And and their sin is, as always for these types of men, is
Right.
hubris.
Right. No, and it's, and if I know I've experienced it, and I think anybody who's, felt like a modicum of success can somehow, feel like suddenly they're untouchable, and then the world reaches out and says, right? Karma shows up, hits you in the head with a hammer. Happens all the time. All right, Mike, thank you so much for joining me. Before I let you get back to your evening, where can people find your work, and what else are you working on?
I'm basically doing Notes from the Circus full time right now. So you can find me at notesfromthecircus.com. Find me, Mike Brock, on Substack. It's really, it's my full time thing. I'm leaning into it, I guess. I'm trying to get out like, a long form piece every 2 days, and then two or three pieces, across that. I'm trying to, I got, I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to do something different than I think a lot of other Substackers are doing. I'm trying
Mhm.
to, like, do a little bit of basic philosophical pedagogy, because like Jefferson, I think I need a public that's capable of thinking for themselves. So,
Right.
I try to, I try to write some of my pieces in a way that really aren't so much about my opinion, but are about the structure of thought, and then kind of taking those concepts and sort of bleeding them into sort of daily political analysis. And so, it's a thing I'm doing. I mean, maybe I'm like fucking around too much. I don't know, but it's like a thing I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do something different. I'm not, rather than what everyone else is doing.
No, right. I mean, I can tell you that there's only, well, the answer is, how many, did you hear what Trump did today? Posts am I going to read? The answer is now zero. I don't need anybody else to tell me. That world intrudes on me by osmosis almost every moment of every day. So yes, I 100% agree. All right, well, Mike, thanks for joining. Everybody, go over to Notes from the Circus and subscribe. And I hope before you get out of here tonight, you'll subscribe to the Home Front as well. Mike, I hope you'll come back soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, Reed. Happy to do it.
All right, and everybody else, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.